area. But what's fascinating about them is they are supposedly the first high civilization of Central America, that they create structures on a massive scale, that you can see connections between them.
Hidden beneath centuries of silence are ancient whispers, secrets etched in ink and stone, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The Grolier Codex is one such whisper, a lost voice from the past that challenges everything we believe about our place in the universe. What mysteries does this forgotten Mayan text hold? The Lost Mayan Codex. For years, the world believed that the known Mayan codices, the Dresden, Madrid, and Paris codices, were the only remaining written records of this great civilization's knowledge. Then, out of the shadows, the Grolier Codex emerged. Unlike its counterparts, which mostly documented astronomy, rituals, and prophecy, this codex held something even more astonishing. Within its pages was an account so mysterious, so unsettling, that it forced scholars and spiritual seekers alike to question reality itself. The Maya were master astronomers, mathematicians, and philosophers, but they were also seers of the unseen. Their understanding of time did not confine itself to simple calendars. They saw time as something fluid, something that could be bent, understood, and perhaps even transcended. Many of their glyphs spoke of gods descending from the sky, beings who walked among them, guiding their civilization to heights still not fully understood by modern researchers. But what if these gods were something else? What if they were never myths at all? The Grolier Codex does not merely hint at this possibility, it shouts it. Contained within its pages are depictions of figures unlike any known Mayan deities, celestial symbols that do not correspond to earthly constellations, and messages that seem to defy traditional translation. Unlike anything previously found in Mesoamerican records, these glyphs tell a story that does not begin on Earth, nor does it end here. One passage, when carefully deciphered, speaks of a bridge of light through which the sky visitors arrived, not as invaders, but as teachers. The Maya, according to these writings, did not view them as gods in the way we might expect, but as travelers from beyond, bearers of knowledge that reshaped their understanding of existence. The concept of beings arriving from the cosmos is not unique to the Maya. In the Vedas, the Hindu scriptures, there are descriptions of vimanas, flying chariots used by celestial beings. The Dogon tribe in Africa has a deeply detailed understanding of the Sirius star system. Knowledge they claim was given to them by the Nomo, beings from the sky. The same patterns repeat across time and cultures, as if humanity has always been nudged toward remembering something long forgotten. What makes the Grolier Codex even more compelling is that it was almost lost entirely. Unlike the other codices, which were partially spared from destruction during the Spanish conquest, this text remained hidden for centuries. Some believe it was concealed intentionally, kept from the hands of those who sought to erase or distort its knowledge. But knowledge has a way of resurfacing when the world is ready for it. This discovery forces a shift in perspective. What if history as we know it has been carefully curated, leaving out the parts that do not fit within the accepted narrative? What if the Maya, rather than being an isolated ancient civilization, were part of a much larger cosmic story? The principle of mentalism, as stated in the Hermetic teachings, tells us that the all is mind, the universe is mental. If this is true, then the key to understanding the messages of the Grolier Codex is not just through logical analysis, but through expanded consciousness. Perhaps the reason these ancient accounts seem so alien to modern scholars is because they require a different way of thinking, one that integrates both intellect and intuition, science and spirit. This is why spiritual seekers throughout history have turned to meditation, altered states of awareness, and sacred rituals to access hidden truths. The Mayan priests and astronomers were not simply studying the heavens, They were communicating with something beyond. They knew that the key to unlocking reality was not just looking outward, but looking inward. The truth of ancient visitors. If the Grolier Codex is telling us that we are not alone, then the question becomes, what does that mean for us today? It is one thing to speculate about ancient visitors, but another to consider that these same connections may still exist. Could it be that these beings, these guides, are still reaching out, waiting for us to remember? History moves in cycles. The Mayan long count calendar suggests that time is not a straight line, but a repeating spiral. The end of one era is always the beginning of another. If the knowledge contained within this lost codex is resurfacing now, then perhaps we are at the threshold of a new awakening, one where we are called to reclaim what was lost and redefine what it means to be human in a vast and mysterious cosmos. The journey does not end here. In the next section, we will dive deeper into the glyphs and symbols of the Grolier Codex, unraveling the hidden messages that may hold the key to understanding our true origins. The resurfacing of the Codex. But what makes this codex so intriguing is not just its disputed origins, but the possibility that it was lost or hidden for reasons beyond mere chance. The codex was reportedly discovered in the 1960s under unclear circumstances, with rumors pointing to looters who may have found it in a remote Mayan site. For decades, scholars debated whether it was a forgery due to the lack of clear documentation about its excavation. But in 2016, extensive testing confirmed that the pigments, materials, and iconography matched authentic Mayan artifacts from the post-classic period, circa 900 to 1521 AD. This revelation changed everything. If real, why was it hidden for so long? Some researchers speculate that colonial destruction played a key role. When the Spanish arrived in the 16th century, they saw Mayan books as works of the devil. The infamous Diego de Landa, a Spanish bishop, ordered mass burnings of indigenous texts in 1562. The few codices that survived likely did so because they were hidden away by Maya priests or scholars who feared their sacred knowledge would be erased forever. There is also another possibility, one that aligns with Mayan spiritual beliefs. The codex may have been deliberately concealed by the Maya themselves to protect knowledge not meant to be widely known. Many Mesoamerican cultures believed that sacred wisdom should only be accessed at the right time by those who were spiritually prepared to receive it. Could the Grolier Codex have been part of this hidden knowledge, resurfacing now because humanity is finally ready? What makes the Grolier Codex different from the other three is its content. It contains depictions of Mayan deities in apocalyptic, almost cosmic settings. Some of its illustrations resemble celestial bodies and figures that do not entirely fit within the traditional Mayan pantheon. This has led to speculation that it might contain insights into Mayan beliefs about otherworldly beings, perhaps even evidence that they, like many ancient civilizations, had knowledge of forces beyond Earth. If this codex had been widely known earlier, would it have changed our understanding of Mayan spirituality and their connection to the cosmos? Was it lost due to colonial destruction, hidden by the Maya, or was its disappearance something more deliberate? These questions remain unanswered, making the Grolier Codex one of the most compelling pieces of lost history to emerge in modern times. The transmissions of the Mayans. But now, after centuries in the shadows, it has emerged, and with it comes knowledge that could rewrite what we thought we knew about the nature of reality itself. The teachings within this codex are not merely words or illustrations. They are transmissions, echoes of a civilization that understood time and space in ways that still elude us. The Maya were not just astronomers, they were visionaries who saw beyond the surface of existence. They mapped the stars, yes, but they also mapped the soul's journey across lifetimes. They believed in cycles, not just the rise and fall of kingdoms, but the ebb and flow of consciousness itself. What if they left this codex as a guide for those who would come after? What if its purpose was never to predict the past, but to awaken the future? One of the most striking elements of the Grolier Codex is its depiction of deities interacting with cosmic forces. Unlike the other surviving Mayan codices, which focus on rituals and agricultural cycles, this one hints at something far greater: the relationship between the gods and the unseen energies that shape existence. The Maya saw the universe as a vast, interconnected web, where gods were not distant figures in the sky, but living forces intertwined with human destiny. To read this codex is to understand that divinity was not separate from life. It was woven into every moment, every breath. Among its pages are illustrations of death gods standing at the threshold of different worlds, their skeletal hands holding open gateways that seem to lead beyond time itself. The Maya did not see death as an end, but as a passage. This belief echoes across many ancient traditions. The Egyptians spoke of the Duat, the realm beyond death, where souls underwent transformation. The Tibetans detailed the Bardo, an in-between state where the mind is freed from the body. The Grolier Codex suggests something similar, but with a twist. The passage it describes is not just for the dead, it is for the living too. The teachings here hint at the idea that reality is fluid, that existence itself can be crossed like a river if one understands the right paths. This aligns with the Hermetic principle of mentalism, which states that the all is mind. Reality is not fixed. It responds to thought, to intention, to the subtle forces that most ignore. The Maya knew this. They encoded this knowledge in their rituals, their temples, their art. And now, in the Grolier Codex, we see it written plainly for those with eyes to see. But there is something more, something buried deeper in its pages. Certain symbols suggest an understanding of energy manipulation, what modern spiritual seekers might call manifestation or the law of attraction. The Maya did not use such terms, but they knew that intention had power. They performed rituals not as empty gestures, but as acts of alignment, ways to harmonize their internal energy with the greater cosmic current. The Codex appears to illustrate this process, showing figures engaging in what could be described as energetic exchanges with divine beings. Were they making offerings? Were they receiving wisdom? Or were they learning how to shift their own reality? This teaching is not unique to the Maya. In Hinduism, there is the concept of tapas, the heat generated by spiritual practice, which can alter both the practitioner and the world around them. In Taoism, there is Wu Wei, the art of effortless action, flowing with the current of the universe rather than resisting it. The Grolier Codex seems to suggest that the Maya, too, understood this truth, that the universe is not a rigid structure, but a responsive force, one that can be influenced by those who learn how to work with it rather than against it. And yet this knowledge was lost, hidden, destroyed, or simply forgotten. The Codex itself was nearly dismissed as a fraud, cast aside by scholars who could not believe that such an artifact had survived the purge of Mayan wisdom. But now it stands as a reminder that not everything was erased, that some fragments of this lost understanding have endured. The question is, what do we do with it now? The teachings of the Grolier Codex are not about worshipping gods or repeating rituals for their own sake. They are about perception, about shifting the way we see the world so that we can move through it with greater clarity. If reality is a river, then we are all wading through its currents, often unaware that we can change direction at any time. The Maya left us a map, but they did not carve a single path. Instead, they left doorways, waiting for those who would recognize them. Discovering the doorways. What happens when we begin to see? When we realize that the structures we take for granted, time, space, even the self, are more flexible than we have been led to believe. The Codex whispers an answer. You awaken. You step beyond the illusion of limitation and into a reality that has been waiting for you all along. But to do this, you must first understand that the power to shift reality was never lost. It was only hidden, waiting to be remembered. And so we must ask ourselves, if this knowledge survived against all odds, if it resurfaced now, at this moment in history, what does that mean for us? Perhaps the time has come to look beyond what we have been taught and see the world through the eyes of those who came before us. Perhaps the Maya did not just leave behind a codex, they left behind an invitation. The Maya did not simply observe the sky, they listened to it. Every movement of the heavens was a message, every celestial cycle a story unfolding in light and shadow. Among the countless cosmic rhythms they tracked, none held as much power, mystery, and danger as Venus. To the Maya and other Mesoamerican cultures, Venus was more than just a bright planet. It was a force, a god, an omen. It carried the energy of war, destruction, and rebirth, weaving itself into the fabric of their mythology, calendars, and rituals. And within the Grolier Codex, one of the oldest surviving Mayan texts, Venus plays a central role, whispering secrets that have not lost their power, only been forgotten. Honoring Venus. Venus does not move through the sky as the other planets do. It disappears, reappears, lingers on the horizon, and vanishes again, following a cycle so distinct and commanding that the Maya built entire warfare strategies, sacrificial rituals, and spiritual beliefs around it. The cycle of Venus was meticulously recorded, 584 days divided into 4 distinct phases. For 90 days, Venus is lost in the light of the sun, invisible, its energy hidden. Then it emerges as the evening star, burning brightly in the twilight for 250 days, a bringer of omens and transformation. Then comes its most dangerous phase, 8 days of complete invisibility, a descent into the underworld, a time of disruption, uncertainty, and death. And finally, Venus returns as the morning star, reigning over the dawn for 236 days, a symbol of new beginnings and cosmic order restored. To the Maya, these phases were not just astronomical observations, they were living forces. The disappearance of Venus was a time of instability, the return of the morning star a time for kings to make bold moves, for warriors to march, for the world to shift. Wars were declared with Venus as the herald, sacrifices made in its name, and its movements encoded into the very structure of the Grolier Codex, marking moments when the veil between worlds was thinner, when fate could be rewritten. But Venus does not only belong to the Maya. Across the world, in different mythologies and spiritual traditions, Venus holds similar roles. In astrology, it is often seen as the planet of love and beauty, a softer, more harmonious force. But beneath that, it retains its dual nature, the evening star and the morning star, the bringer of light and the messenger of chaos. In ancient Greece, Venus was Aphrodite, but in earlier traditions, it was also Lucifer, the light bringer, the one who falls and rises again. The same pattern seen in the Mayan texts is found in esoteric traditions across cultures: descent into darkness, transformation, and re-emergence into light. This understanding of celestial cycles goes beyond Venus. The Maya saw astrology not as entertainment or vague fortune-telling, but as a precise, sacred science. Their calendars did not just track time, they revealed the energy imprinted in each moment. The Tzolk'in, their 260-day ritual calendar, was not an arbitrary construction, but a reflection of cosmic rhythms, a way to align human existence with the divine pulse of the universe. Every day carried a specific energy, a force that could be read, understood, and worked with. For the Maya, every individual was born under a specific day sign, much like a modern astrological birth chart, and that sign dictated strengths, weaknesses, and destiny. But unlike modern astrology, which is often seen as fixed, the Maya understood something deeper. Time is not static. The same cycles that shape the stars shape our lives. Just as Venus disappears and reappears, we too go through cycles of loss and rebirth. Just as the heavens move in repeating patterns, so do our own experiences, thoughts, and spiritual journeys. So how does this knowledge apply to us now? It is not enough to simply know these cycles exist. The Maya did not just watch the sky, they acted in accordance with it. We must learn to do the same. To align ourselves with celestial rhythms is to understand that there are moments for rest and moments for action, times to retreat and times to move forward with force. The phases of Venus remind us that nothing lasts forever. No darkness, no suffering, no period of stagnation. When we find ourselves lost, disconnected, trapped in the invisible spaces between our past and future, we must remember that Venus will always rise again. This is why awareness is not enough. We must engage with these energies directly. One way is through ritual, honoring Venus's phases through meditation, setting intentions when it shifts from evening star to morning star, recognizing when we are in our own invisible phase, and allowing transformation to take place. Another way is through conscious action, learning to move with the cycles of our own life rather than resisting them, understanding that the moments of darkness are necessary for the return of the light. Each of Venus's 4 main phases carries its own energy, requiring a different approach to meditation, intention setting, and action. To honor Venus, we must move with these shifts rather than against them, learning when to step forward, when to pause, and when to surrender to the process of transformation. The hidden phase. The hidden phase, which lasts for 90 days during the superior conjunction, is a time of rest, integration, and surrender. This is when Venus is lost in the sun's light, invisible to us. In many traditions, this is seen as a time of purification, a period when the old dissolves and something new is forming in the unseen. It mirrors the moments in our lives when we feel lost, uncertain, or unable to move forward. To honor this phase, one can practice meditation for stillness by sitting in complete silence, preferably in darkness or candlelight, allowing oneself to become comfortable with not knowing. Journaling can also serve as a tool for surrender, writing down anything that feels uncertain, unclear, or like it's falling apart. Rather than trying to fix these things, one can acknowledge them and release the need for control. A ritual of release can be performed by burning a piece of paper with what one is ready to surrender to the unknown, trusting that clarity will come when Venus returns. The evening star phase, lasting approximately 250 days, is a period of reflection, love, and deep work. When Venus reappears as the evening star, it is visible just after sunset, shining in the twilight. This is a time of introspection, emotional processing, and preparing for transformation. It represents a period of looking deeply at ourselves, our desires, relationships, and personal growth. One way to honor this phase is through Venusian meditation, lighting a candle after sunset and sitting outside, watching Venus appear in the sky. Focusing on the heart chakra, one can visualize the warmth of Venus's light, filling them with self-awareness and love. A ritual for self-discovery involves creating a sacred space with Venusian symbols such as copper, roses, honey, or a mirror, and writing down one's deepest desires and fears, asking where they might be resisting growth. Reading these aloud and meditating on them allows for deeper understanding. Additionally, this is a time to engage in acts of beauty and connection, surrounding oneself with beauty, deepening relationships, and expressing creativity through painting, writing, singing, or adorning oneself with something that enhances authenticity. The 8 days of inferior conjunction mark a time of descent, transformation, and the death of the old self. This is the most intense phase. Venus disappears completely before it rises as the morning star. In many traditions, this period is seen as a symbolic death, mirroring mythological journeys like Inanna's descent into the underworld. In our own lives, this represents deep transformation, where something within us must be shed before we can emerge renewed. To honor this phase, one can engage in shadow work meditation by sitting in darkness or blindfolding oneself, asking, "What part of me needs to die for me to be reborn?" Allowing any images, emotions, or memories to surface without judgment can bring clarity. A ritual of death and rebirth involves taking an object that symbolizes an outdated version of oneself, an old photo, a letter, or a piece of jewelry, and burying it in the earth or placing it in water, symbolizing its dissolution. Another way to honor this phase is through fasting or silence, refraining from food, social media, or unnecessary distractions for a short period. This mirrors Venus's disappearance and prepares one for its return. The morning star phase, lasting 236 days, represents rebirth, action, and power. Venus returns, now visible just before dawn, marking a period of renewal, clarity, and forward motion. In many cultures, this phase represents victory, new beginnings, and the restoration of cosmic order. It is a time to take bold steps, commit to new paths, and step into the light. To honor this phase, one can practice dawn meditation by waking before sunrise, finding a place to watch Venus rise, and breathing in the energy of new beginnings, letting it fill them with certainty and strength. An intention-setting ritual can be performed by writing down what one is ready to commit to. Whether it is a creative project, a relationship, or a personal transformation, speaking it aloud as the sun rises, affirming that this is the time to act. Physical movement also plays a role in embodying this energy. Dancing, running, or practicing yoga with power and intention allows one to fully step into their purpose. Beyond ritual, honoring Venus means learning to work with its lessons in real time. It means recognizing when one is in an invisible phase, when things seem unclear or feelings of being lost arise, and trusting that clarity will return. It means knowing when it's time to reflect and when it's time to act, when to surrender and when to rise with unwavering certainty. Each person experiences these cycles within their own life. There are times when one must disappear to heal, times when one must dive into their shadows, and times when they must rise as their most powerful self. Venus teaches that these phases are not failures or detours, they are the natural rhythm of existence. The Maya understood this deeply, encoding it in their sacred texts, rituals, and calendars. They saw Venus as a mirror, reflecting back to humanity its own transformations, wars, and victories. They knew that by aligning with its cycles, one could move through life with greater harmony, power, and purpose. As Venus moves through the sky, let it serve as a reminder that no phase is permanent. Even in the darkest moments, the light is already on its way back. And when the time comes, one too will rise again, brighter, stronger, and unshaken. Time is alive. This just confirms that the Maya understood something that we have forgotten. Time is alive. The universe speaks in cycles, in patterns, in rhythms that are mirrored within us. The Grolier Codex is not just a relic. It is a message, a guidebook left behind by those who knew how to read the sky and, more importantly, how to live by it. Venus is only one piece of that puzzle, but it is a crucial one, reminding us that destruction and creation are two sides of the same force, that endings always lead to new beginnings, and that even in the deepest darkness, the light is already on its way back. To say that time is alive is to acknowledge that it is not merely a mechanical measurement of passing moments, but a force that breathes, moves, and interacts with existence. Ancient civilizations, from the Maya to the Egyptians, from the Vedic traditions to the Celts, saw time as something sacred, something imbued with intention and intelligence. Unlike the linear, rigid construct imposed by modern societies, their understanding of time was organic, cyclical, and deeply interwoven with nature, the cosmos, and human consciousness. The Maya, in particular, saw time as a living entity, a presence that could be read, engaged with, and even influenced. Their intricate calendars were not simply tools for tracking days. They were maps of destiny, revealing the unfolding of personal and cosmic events. Each day carried an essence, a spirit, a guiding force that shaped human affairs. To them, to live in alignment with time was to live in harmony with the greater order of existence. If we consider time as alive, then we must also consider that it has memory, intention, and rhythm. The movement of celestial bodies, the shifting of the seasons, the patterns in history, all of these are expressions of time's intelligence. It is no coincidence that events seem to repeat, that certain energies return again and again, not as mere repetition, but as a spiral, a refinement, a deeper unfolding of lessons that must be learned. When Venus disappears into the brilliance of the sun and is later reborn as the morning star, it mirrors a process that occurs within all things. There are moments in our lives when we vanish into uncertainty, only to emerge with greater clarity. This is not random. It is time itself guiding us through necessary transformations. If we resist these phases, we create suffering. If we embrace them, we move with the current of existence rather than against it. Our modern world treats time as something to be conquered, measured, and optimized. We divide it into minutes and seconds, plot it onto schedules, and attempt to control it with relentless precision. But in doing so, we alienate ourselves from its deeper wisdom. We forget that time is not an enemy or a resource to be spent. It is a presence, a teacher, a force that flows through us and around us. The Maya understood that time was not separate from consciousness. It was not something outside of us, ticking away in some distant realm. It was interwoven with our awareness, our choices, and our spiritual evolution. This is why their calendars were not just astronomical charts, but sacred texts. Each day carried a unique vibration, an energy that could be worked with intentionally. Time was alive, and therefore it could be listened to, respected, and even influenced. The idea of time as a living force also appears in other traditions. The ancient Greeks spoke of kairos, the opportune moment, a sacred opening in time where transformation is possible. The Hindus describe Kala as both time and death, a force that consumes yet also renews. In Taoist thought, time moves like water, flowing naturally, never in a straight line but always finding its way. These perspectives reveal a truth that we have largely forgotten. time is not just something we move through, it moves through us. If time is alive, then it listens. It responds to our intentions, our rituals, and our awareness. When we acknowledge its presence, we step into alignment with its flow. This is why ancient cultures performed ceremonies at specific celestial moments, why they built temples in resonance with planetary movements, and why they structured their lives in accordance with cosmic cycles. They were not worshipping time. They were communing with it, learning its language and moving with its currents. To reconnect with the aliveness of time, we must shift from seeing it as a linear progression to understanding it as a dance, a rhythm, a living presence that invites us to participate. We can begin by observing the natural world, the way the moon cycles through its phases, the way the tides respond to its pull, the way the seasons transition seamlessly from one to the next. We can watch the movement of Venus, tracking its disappearance and reappearance, and reflect on how our own lives follow similar patterns of withdrawal and return. We can also engage with time intentionally through ritual, honoring the start of a new cycle, whether a lunar phase, a solstice, or even a personal milestone, creates an anchor point in time, a moment where consciousness and rhythm align. Meditating on the energy of each day, as the Maya did, allows us to sense the unique quality of time as it unfolds, rather than treating every moment as indistinguishable from the last. Another way to awaken to the aliveness of time is through synchronicity. When meaningful coincidences occur, when an answer arrives precisely when we need it, when a meeting changes the course of our lives, when a repeated symbol appears in unexpected places, it is time speaking to us. These are not random accidents. They are signs that we are in flow with the deeper intelligence of existence. The more we pay attention, the more time reveals itself as a conscious force, guiding us toward our highest path. The Grolier Codex, like other sacred texts, is a remnant of this lost wisdom. It is a whisper from the past, reminding us that time is not something to be feared or controlled, but something to be understood and honored. It teaches us that life does not move in a straight line, but in cycles, and that every ending carries within it the seed of a new beginning. It shows us that just as Venus disappears and returns, we too are meant to move through phases of darkness and light, retreat and re-emergence, destruction and creation. When we reclaim the understanding that time is alive, we reclaim a deeper connection to existence itself. We begin to live in rhythm with the cosmos rather than in opposition to it. We stop fighting against the flow of time and instead learn to dance with it, recognizing that each moment carries its own wisdom, its own lesson, its own opportunity for transformation. A sacred flow. Time is not our enemy. It is not a force that moves against us, nor is it indifferent to us. It is alive, conscious, and woven into the very fabric of our being. When we listen to it, when we honor its rhythms, when we move in harmony with its flow, we step into a greater understanding of ourselves and the universe. And just as the Maya knew, we begin to see that time is not something that happens to us. It is something we are an inseparable part of, a living force that, when embraced, reveals the deeper order of all things. One Latin American mystic who deeply understood the living nature of time was Carlos Castaneda. Though controversial, his writings about his apprenticeship with the Yaqui sorcerer Don Juan Matus offer a glimpse into a worldview where time is not a straight line, but a force that can be moved, shaped, and even entered. Don Juan spoke of the path of the warrior, a way of living where one learns to step outside of ordinary time and into a deeper rhythm that connects all things. To him, time was not just something to be measured by clocks or calendars. It was something to be danced with, something to feel moving through the body and the world. The way a tree grows, the way the wind shifts before a storm, the way an animal knows when to flee. All of this was part of the living current of time. Don Juan believed that by quieting the mind and letting go of fixed ideas about how things should happen, a person could align with this current and move through life with a kind of effortless precision. The Maya would have understood this well. They saw time as a sacred flow, not a prison. Their calendars were not just tools for marking days, but portals for understanding the cycles that shape existence. In the same way, Don Juan taught that true power comes not from fighting against time, but from flowing with it. This meant recognizing the right moment to act and the right moment to wait. It meant understanding that there are seasons within a person's own life. Moments of growth, moments of retreat, moments of transformation. Castaneda wrote of exercises meant to break a person free from rigid thinking and reconnect them to time's living pulse. One of these was the practice of stopping the world, shifting awareness so completely that ordinary reality seemed to dissolve, revealing the deeper forces at play. The Maya, too, had rituals for stepping outside of linear time. Their ceremonies, their use of sacred plants, their deep relationship with the stars, all of these were ways of communing with time itself. But why does this matter to us now? Because we have lost this connection. In the modern world, time has become something we fear, something we race against. We are taught to see it as a thief, always taking from us, always slipping away. We chase deadlines, we dread aging, we fill every moment with distractions, afraid of the silence that might reveal something deeper. The truth is, time is not our foe, but a quiet ally, always guiding us forward. It speaks to us, just as it spoke to the Maya, just as it spoke to Don Juan. If we learn to truly listen, we can move with time rather than against it. We'll know when to let go, when to step forward, and trust that every ending holds the promise of a new beginning. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.